G'day guys, Jakko here, sitting down the boat for another video today. I haven't been doing a lot of videos of late. I have been doing plenty of fishing, but it's just been a bit of a grind out there, as winter fishing is. Which gave me the idea to do this video today. Basically just going over some tips for chasing impoundment Murray Cod during the winter, during that cold weather. It's definitely a grind for a lot of people, myself included. But I've definitely learnt a few things over the last few seasons that I thought I'd share with you guys. I also get a lot of questions on the socials, Instagram and the like. Different stuff like I'm going to Copeton for 5 days, what's your best tips, or any of the impoundments basically. And I just think this is a good video just with my key tips because they're all pretty general and they sort of work across all the impoundments that we've got, New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria. So we'll jump straight into it. I think I've got 7 tips to go through. And the first one is find bait. So at the moment, bait is the rage. Everyone's talking about it. With Murray Cod fishing, you know, going back a couple of years ago, if someone said to go and fish bait, you'd sort of have a bit of a laugh. I mean, you'd think, nah, you got to find the structure, rock walls, timber, that type of stuff, which still holds Murray Cod, of course, especially during the warmer months. But in winter, what we're really looking for is bait. So that's great. What is bait? Well, bait is life basically. Murray Cod are the biggest predator in the water, so anything else that is in that water is basically bait for those fish. If it's not bait for the fish, it'll be bait for the bait, it'll be bait for the cod. So sometimes you can actually find the smallest insects and that type of stuff, that type of life on top of the water that other bait fish will actually feed off, and then the cod will be there feeding off them. So basically, you picture it if you go into a bay, say in an impoundment, and there's just nothing going on. You don't see anything on your sound, you don't see anything on the surface, you can't see any birds working, you can't see any insects. It's probably not going to be a good place to fish. Whereas if you go into a bay where there's activity, there's pelicans on the bank, there's shags in the trees, you can see insects all over the place, there's carp jumping, and there's bait on your sounder, well, that's probably going to be where the cod are. The cod are going to be where the bait is. So try and find the bait, and then you'll be in the right area and you can work from there. What is the bait? Like what species? Murray Cod, as I said, anything that's smaller than them. But you're looking at carp is one of the most common ones because they're in most of the impoundments throughout most of Australia. Redfin, trout, spangled perch, aka bobby cod, yellow belly, silver perch, crucian carp, bony brim, you know, the list goes on. There's a heap of stuff they'll eat, and it's all sort of anywhere, like, you know, it can be anything from 40 mil up to 300 mil, and they'll eat it. So you're just looking for any life. Every impoundment will have different variations of bait. You know, Copeton's famous for its spangled perch, bobby cod, whereas if you go down south, those dams like Blair and Yielden, those places will have a lot more trout, and the cod also love to eat trout. So whatever the bait is, try and match your lures to that bait. How do we find it? Well, there's a few different ways to find it. If you know what you're doing on your sounder, you can generally find bait on your sounder. What bait will look like on your sounder depending on the size. You know, if it's bigger like carp, trout, redfin, it'll show up like arches or on your sonar, or you'll actually see it on your down scan, side scan, depends what sounder you got. Otherwise, smaller bait like little fish, galaxias and that type of stuff that the sort of bigger bait will actually feed on, that'll actually come up and it'll actually look like a ball, like a cloud on your sounder. I'll see if I can get a screenshot of it, but yeah, you'll see it when you know what it is and you get confident. You'll know you'll know when you see bait on your sounder. If you don't have a sounder, don't stress. The good thing about winter is fish will generally be shallower, so you can use other things. Like the easiest one is just looking. So if you're seeing stuff on the surface, carp jumping, trout rising, that type of stuff, bang, there's the bait. So you fish up in those areas, especially on low light. That's when you'll get the most surface activity. So try and be out there, and you'll pick it up with your eyes, and then you can fish those zones. Otherwise, birds are great. Pelicans, if you see pelicans on the bank, they're never going to be too far away from bait. So see pelicans, shags, that type of thing, you're probably going to be in the right zone around there. So that's bait. It's all the rage. Bait is a lot more scarce in winter compared to summer. So when you can find it, the fish, the big cod, aren't going to be too far away from it. So try and focus on fishing those zones. Number 2 is fish natural baits. So in winter, I like to go nearly 100% swim baiting. So both hard body and soft body swim baits. At the moment, I've been having a lot of success on the hard body swim baits. So things like your Jakko ganniers, gantrels, gigantrels, megabass battalions, all that type of thing. There's plenty of them out there. There's also your soft body swim baits, stuff like your Huddlestons, your mag drafts, just normal plastics like Kitech 7.8s, Daiwa duckfin shads, all that type of thing. They're all a swim bait, just a real natural profile. The reason we're doing this is the fish are really keyed into this bait and you want to match it as best as possible. And also the other thing is the fish, you're generally going to be fishing a lot shallower, and I find that you don't want to be basically spooking the fish with your reaction style bait like a spinner bait or a hard body, that type of thing. Chatterbaits are sort of 50-50. I do still run chatterbaits a fair bit through winter. They sort of cover the whole season, but I really steer clear of my spinner baits and that type of stuff, the real reaction stuff that puts out a loud noise. I stay away from them during winter. The other thing with your lures is try to find a lure that you're confident in, maybe a lure that you've had success on in the past. You know what it's doing, you're confident with how you're working it, because it can be long days out there, a long grind, and you want to be confident that your lure's working. You don't want to be just trying something on for the first time and just fishing it not right. You want to be able to get in that zone, fish it properly, and be confident with what you're doing. Third one would be fish the prime times. So if you're going to put the effort in to be out there in winter, try to be in the prime times. What are the prime times? Well, each their own, but generally, you can't go wrong with first light and last light. First light in winter is by far the number one bite time in my opinion. That time when you can just start to see till when the sun starts to break over the hills behind you is the prime bite time. So it's generally, at the moment it's about 6 till 7:30 around where I'm fishing. So I've got that hour and a half window where I want to be fishing hard, and I'll make sure if I'm going out for a session that I'm on the water about an hour to half an hour to an hour before that, so I can get in the zone, get in my spot, and I'm ready to fish hard in the spot I want to fish for that hour and a half. After that, I'll taper it back, and then during the middle of the day I don't fish too much, and then back into it in the afternoon for that last light. Last light traditionally in winter isn't as good as first light for myself. Some people have different results, but for me, make sure you can, if you're gonna be out there overnight or going early morning, try and get there for that first light. Other prime times, look out for your lunar phases. So moon rise, moon set, moon above, and moon below. So you got four moon sort of cycles through the day, which are your lunar phases, and try and watch them. Get an app. I use Fish Range app, and that'll actually tell you. And basically, the hour before and the hour after one of those main phases is when what is considered a bite window. And going through my results over the last 12 months, it's definitely starting to really become apparent that they do bite on these moon changes and moon phases. So it's good to take note of them. Even if you're going to be fishing during the day, you might have moon set at say 10 in the morning. That sun will be right up, but you want to fish from 9 to 11 in the morning, because on that change is when those fish, you can get those fish to bite. It's definitely not as apparent as what first and last light is for me, but it's definitely something I like to keep an eye on because they are prime bite times. The other thing is barometric pressure. Everyone's got a bit of a different opinion with barometric pressure. I like to fish a violent barometric pressure. So my favourite time is if there's a drop coming or it's coming up to a dropping barometric pressure. So if there's some shitty weather forecasted for the next couple of days, I want to be sort of 24 to 36 hours. I want to be on the water 24 to 36 hours before that barometric pressure starts to plummet, and you'll often find you'll get a good bite through then. Number 4 would be work the same zone or location. So that kind of relates to a dam, and then also an area in a dam. So, you know, if you're going to be putting the time in through winter, the best advice I can give is find that whatever dam is closest to you and really work hard at that dam, and don't chip and change between going to other dams. You know, all the rage over the last few years has been like, you got to go to Copeton, but you know, people from Victoria driving up to fish Copeton for a weekend when they're driving past 9 or 10 dams that fish just as good as it, but they just don't get the social media attention as what Copeton does. So don't overlook close waterways to home, and yeah, you know, there's heaps of them. There's waterways all Eildon, Mulwala, Bowring, Burrinjuck, Wyangler, Burrendong, Windermere, Copeton, Glenwood, Pindari. You know, the list goes on. You're going to be, whichever one is closest to you, there's going to be good cod in there, and try and focus your time onto that, because that means you can get more time on the water and less time in the car driving up to the spot. So that's one of the keys, I reckon, is don't overlook waterways close to home. And then if it's a big waterway, try to break it up. Don't sort of go fish the main basin, then go fish this river arm, then this river arm. Break it down trip by trip maybe. And then even season, like during the winter season, just fish the one arm and try and work that arm out, because the more confidence you get in a zone and work it out, the more consistent your results will be. Number 5 would just be prepared. Terminal tackle, line, rods, reels, all that type of stuff. You know, we're chasing big fish here in winter. Every cast, every chance of catching a 1.2 metre cod. So when that fish hits, you want to be prepared. So, you know, upgrade all your terminal tackle. Don't go underdone. Have stuff like your net ready in the boat. Have a big net. You know, too many times you see blokes catching 1.2s and they've got a yellow belly net in the boat and it just ends in tears. So be prepared. Have all your stuff ready to go. Big long nose pliers so you can get those hooks out if they're deep. All that type of stuff. Brag mat ready to go. We want to get that fish, no matter how big it is, we want to get that fish measured, photoed and back in the water as quick as possible. So just be prepared. Number 6 is one of the most important, I reckon, and that is dress accordingly. Winter, it's going to be cold. You know, a lot of the time it's going to be below negative, and you need to be prepared for that, especially if you're out there at night or first light when it's actually the coldest part of the day. You know, quite often I'm fishing well below negative, so -3, 4, 5 degrees. And if you don't have the right kit on, you're not going to stay out there for very long, and it's just not going to be comfortable. You're not going to fish properly, and you're just not going to want to be there. You're going to put the rods down. You're going to go back to the fire at camp, or just go home. So dress accordingly. You know, thermals. You got to have thermals. Wet weather gear. Puffer jackets. I love puffer jackets. I wear them all the time. They're warm as. Gloves. Snow gloves. I'm still looking for the perfect pair of gloves. I've tried a heap, but I just can't find the perfect pair. But some gloves is better than none. Your fingertips are the one thing that go the quickest on me. So you got to have warm fingers. You want to have warm hands, because when that fish hits, you want to hit him hard, and you don't want to have frozen hands and be all over the shop. Sort yourself out with a good set of gloves. At the moment, I've been running XTM gloves from Aussie Disposal. They're cheap, about $30, and they've been doing the job. They're not perfect, but they've been doing the job for me. Beanies, neck warmers, everything you can use to keep warm. Hand warmers as well. People like to use hand warmers. Not a big fan of them. Used them, but I find just having a good set of snow gloves does the job. But all in all, just be prepared to be cold. That it's going to be cold out there, and you got to dress up, because, you know, the first time I went to Copeton, I wore footy shorts and a hoodie like this, and froze me tits off the first night, and it was a 3-day trip, and I didn't fish any other time but the middle of the day after that, because I just didn't have the right attire, and it ruined the trip. We didn't catch a fish, and yeah, we just weren't prepared. So be prepared, not only with your tackle or your gear in the boat, but also the gear that you put on your skin, because you need to be warm out there when it's bloody freezing. The last one, tip number 7, would be just keep grinding. I'll just show you a quick clip now. Oh yeah, how good's this? 5 days of grind fishing. Really struggled. Thought I'd come back out, giving it one more crack, and bows. $1.10 on the dot. 7th meatery for the year. Oh yeah. Absolutely stoked. He's such a mad, big, healthy fish. Gave me some curry too, the big fella. He's got a bit of an indent on his head there. Significant marking. 110. Big fish. Stoked. Gonna see him off, he's starting to kick. Shit, yeah, how good's that? So that clip there, obviously releasing 110 centimetre cod. It was from about a fortnight ago. You know, went through a really tough trip the days prior. 5 days prior, actually, I was down at Burren Jakko and chasing a big fish with Zach, and we fished really hard for 5 days. We got a couple of 70s and 80s, but not what we were there to catch. You know, still happy with the trip, and it's always a privilege to be out on the water, but just didn't sit well with me. You know, the harder the fishing gets like that, and the more trips I go, the more sessions I go without getting that fish that I want to catch, the more it motivates me to get back out there. So sure enough, 5-day trip, come back, Monday worked, and then straight back out to the dam Monday night, and it only took me an hour and a half to catch that fish. So got the 110, was stoked, actually packed up after that, didn't have another cast, and yeah, went home, and I was stoked. So I got the fish. That after that, I had a few days, like had a week and a bit off because I was satisfied with that. But the message is, you just got to try and keep grinding. You know, I'm getting a fair few people messaging me like, I've been to Copenhagen or I've been to wherever, and for 5 days and I haven't caught a fish. What am I doing wrong? Well, you're probably not doing anything wrong. They're just hard fish to catch, especially during winter. But that's what makes them what they are, and what makes it so special when you actually catch one, because of the effort that you put in. So don't give up. If you've been grinding out there for, you know, 10 trips and haven't caught a fish yet, I've been there before. I've had plenty of 5-6 session donuts this season already, and you just got to keep grinding, keep pushing through, and know that that fish is going to come. Just do all the stuff right, and eventually it'll happen. And it'll feel so much better when it does, when you know you've put that work into catching. Anyway, guys, that's just a quick video just to keep the content rolling. Hopefully it answers a few questions that I've been getting on the socials. Gives you guys a few tips. You know, it might not. It's pretty general stuff. You guys might know all that, but anyway, you might get something out of it, you might not. But hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, subscribe to the channel. Plenty more coming. I have got a video of a nice meatery I caught the other day up next, and then hopefully we can get a few more videos before the season ends. If not, we'll roll into sort of bass and yellers in the spring, and hopefully another barra trip coming up. So yeah, see you around. Cheers for watching.